What is going on, guys? My name is Landon, and today I am bringing you guys my recap for the Gfinity Summer Masters Championship thingies. I don't know what it's called, but it's a pretty long name, but it was a really good tournament. I have a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of interesting news that went down, a lot of surprising placings. All around had a great event. Thinking about the production for Gfinity, it was T1, I must say. Gfinity had, a lot of like little ads like they would play. Like it wouldn't like be ads, but it was like little inserts. Like I believe a company sponsored the event and they were using a lot of videos for that. I would say that that's probably been the most entertained that I've been through any Call of Duty stream in some way. Like it wasn't just, oh, we're gonna throw it to commercial break and then we just see a picture of sponsors and the music in the background. Like they actually involved people with it. The casters were involved. It was all around just a great event, and I really enjoyed it. But what we're gonna do, go over the placings, some surprises from the tournament, and kind of just break down everything that happened. And so let's get into it now. Why did I just do that? But I like doing this. Ow, ow, ow. Alright, so going over the placings from bottom to top, we're going to start off with 13th through 16th, which was Spirit Gaming, Liquid Gaming, IGI Esports. 9th through 12th came Hyper Games, Rise Nation, and Team Caliber. 5th through 8th was Vitality Storm, Epsilon, Envy, and Elevate. Coming in 4th was Infused, in 3rd was Optic Nation, in 2nd was Optic Gaming, and in 1st was FaZe Clan. Now I'm going to kind of break down a couple of the teams. I'm not going to talk about every single one, but like I said, like how I normally do it, we're going to go kind of in sections. So we're going to go like each panel, as you guys can see of the graphic, we're going to go each panel, kind of talk about each team in particular. You'll give their highs, their best parts, their best moments in the entire tournament, and talk about how far they actually made it now that you guys know. Now starting off with the teams who placed 13th through 16th, which was, like I said, VWS, Liquid, IGI, and Spirit Gaming. Honestly, those were the guys that kind of predicted to be down there. Unfortunately, I know Spirit was like one of the top teams coming from the championship division in the Gfinity Pro League, but ultimately just didn't have their way. I think the NA and also the EU teams were just too powerful for them in some way. I guess you'd say the better EU teams, the more known EU teams were more powerful than them. So kind of unfortunate for those guys. But 9th through 12th came Hyper Games, Team Caliber, Rise Nation, and TCM Gaming. Hyper Games, pretty good at times. I know they ended up losing to Envy, but not a placing I'm sure they're happy with, but that's kind of where I would have projected them to be at. TK, definitely not where I had them at. This is kind of in my mind, it was like they're going to place here or they're going to be in 3rd or 4th. That's what I kind of predicted. I thought that they might do a little bit better. I believe I had them in 5th through 8th, but that was just my safe region. I was like, I'm not sure if they're going to do really good or if they're going to place like everyone probably thinks that they would, and they ended up doing that. TK had some good moments. I noticed that they never all go off at the same time. Like you never see a map and you're like, oh my gosh, Sharp went off at this one point during this hard point, and then Nameless went off, and then Neslo. It seemed like it was very sporadic, and I know they're very frustrated with that placing. We had Neslo on the sticks not too long ago, and I even mentioned this in my predictions video. He was very excited. He was really, he was just overly confident coming into this event, which is good. You want to be confident coming into an event, but unfortunately TK definitely was not happy with that placing. Rise Nation also, they were my dark horse coming into the team. Two of the newer pickups of Burns and Apathy not paying off at all, I would say. I was kind of unfortunate to see Rise Nation place as low as they did. I had them, I believe, in 4th. Might have had them in 5th through 8th. I can't remember exactly, but still had them placing pretty high, and ultimately didn't really lead me anywhere. CCM, pretty good team. Ultimately, I thought they might do a little bit better since they had Jerd and Moose who previously played, but I watched TCM play all their games, and I wasn't really impressed, to say the least. That's just how TCM plays. They're not a very good team. No offense to them, but I hope they pick it up soon. So coming in our first team who plays 5th through 8th was actually Elevate. Elevate had a pretty good event. I wasn't really sure how they would place. They looked very good at the beginning of this tournament. I believe they started off 6-0, in that kind of pool, how they kind of centered it around. They didn't actually have a loser's bracket. It was kind of like a knockout stage. It's hard to explain, but still, Elevate played IGI, 3-0'd them. Later played Epsilon EU, and they actually 3-0'd them as well. So I was like, these guys are not a team to mess with. So how this team worked, they actually had 2 players from Elevate, and they had 2 players from Denial. Now, a lot of people were asking me, why wasn't Denial invited to this tournament? The reason why is that they actually have 2 players who aren't eligible to play. Now, why was it you'll play it under Elevate and not Denial? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, but the 2 players from Elevate were actually slacked in Classic. Saints isn't allowed to travel out of the country, and TJ Halley is not old enough. This was an 18+ tournament, so you have to be at least 18 or over to play at this tournament. He's unfortunately not that old. And also from Denial, we had Replays and also Slasher. And, their 2 teammates who Contempt, both young Dons, unfortunately aren't 18 either, so they're not old enough to be at this tournament. So kind of combined for this tournament, plays pretty well. I would say 5th through 8th is a placing you're not like necessarily happy with, but for a pickup squad, you can't really be mad at them for that. You know, this team was pretty good. Replays actually had one of the top KDs of the entire tournament, which we'll go into. Definitely one of the surprises of the tournament, and Slasher was also in the top 5 KDs as well. So Elevate had a very good event. Moving on to Team Envious, this team, I had them 4th. They came 5th through 8th. You know, am I happy with that? Not really. I thought that this was going to be the event where Envy kind of turned up and they did really well. It just wasn't to be for them this tournament, I guess you could say. You know, Octane had some pretty good moments, but I think the main reason why Envy didn't have a very good event, and a lot of people kind of overlooked this, they played FaZe, they played Hyper Games, and they played Optic Gaming. I believe they took Optic Gaming to a Game 5, which was totally, I wouldn't say unexpected, but I was like, okay, this Envy team is here to play. They would later go on to play Hyper Games, where I believe they would 3-0 them, and then they would end up landing against FaZe. You know, it's really unfortunate for them, because they played the 2 teams who were in the grand finals, and 2 teams who literally stand above everyone else, which is FaZe and Optic Gaming, and they ended up playing those 2 teams. So it's really unfortunate for Envy. I guess you could say it wasn't a bad event, and just an unlucky, you know, style of the bracket. I wouldn't say screwed over, but someone's always going to have that problem in the bracket, and that just happened to be Envious again for this tournament. So kind of unfortunate for Envy. Moving on to Epsilon. Epsilon actually had a couple problems throughout the tournament. You know, there was some arguments about in one game versus Optic Nation, I believe they were on Search and Destroy, and I think Mochilla was in a 1v1 versus someone, and apparently the crowd or the casters yelled really loud, and so Moch apparently heard it, and then he went and killed the guy, and ultimately kind of like messed Epsilon up. Moving on to Team Vitality, it seemed like this is where a lot of the top EU teams were kind of at. You know, the 4th to 8th region was where a lot of them went to. Vitality ended up playing TCM, where they would 3-0 them. That was in one of their pools. Unfortunately, Vitality ended up lining up against Optic Gaming, where they would get 3-1, which, you know, is kind of unfortunate. It's like you draw the short straw. You end up playing against Optic Gaming, who did make it to the grand finals, and ultimately lost to them 3-1. So props to Vitality for making it as far as they did. They played some pretty good teams. They went 6-0 in the first 2 matchups that they had, and ended up losing 3-1 versus OG. So kind of unfortunate, but still, that was our teams from 5th through 8th. It's now time to move on to our 4th place team, which was Team Infused, who really surprised a lot of the competition this weekend. For those who don't know Team Infused roster, that roster is Quicker, LXT, Urban, and Marky B. This squad had some amazing moments throughout the entire tournament. Quicker, I believe he's the captain for this team, had some crazy moments. LXT was one of the top players at this tournament, and I really like his attitude. You know, he's kind of cocky, but he's like, you know, I'm not going to back down from anyone, and I really admired that. LXT had an amazing event. I've heard of him, but I've never seen him like in action fully, and he definitely exceeded my expectations. Urban, also a dominant. I believe he plays the bow, and really went to work a lot of the time. I saw him playing against some top you know, American teams and really did very well against them. Infuse would go up against Elevate, who they would actually knock out in a 3-2 fashion. I was very surprised about that. And then they would move on to play FaZe, where they would get 3-1. Honestly, Infuse had such a good run. Was very impressed with them. That was definitely my surprise of the tournament for me personally. At least one of them, not my main, but probably one of them throughout the entire tournament. I know that Infuse was a good team, but I didn't know they were that good, and they played very well. And like I said, exceeded my expectations. A very good squad, and I'm really looking forward to see them at, you know, maybe tournaments in the future, maybe even the World, you know, even Worlds, which is coming up in a couple months as well. So Infuse, definitely a very talented team this weekend. Moving on to Optic Nation, who actually placed 3rd. This was definitely a major surprise for me in the fact that I knew that they were getting a lot better, but I didn't know they were getting this good. So 3rd place, I believe this is the highest place that they've gotten in Advanced Warfare so far. So major congratulations to Owen. In their bracket, or in their group, they were actually in Group D. They ended up playing against Spirit Gaming, where they would 3-0 them. Later went on to play TCM, where they would 3-2 TCM. Went over to the knockout stage, where they would play against Epsilon EU. 3-2 them, and then it was Optic Gaming versus Optic Nation. You know, it was the Optic family feud, I guess you could say. A really fun match to watch, but you know, OG just kind of outclassed them and ended up knocking them out. So kind of an unfortunate run for Optic Nation, but ultimately had a very solid event. Ricky had some good moments. Mochilla was one of the top KDs of the tournament, and I saw Miracles go off countless times. So you know, Owen, this is definitely a booster for them, that's for sure. You know, they've kind of had their downs, they've had their good moments, their bad moments. I don't think they placed very well at Dallas either. So this was definitely a little bit of a come up for them for sure. So mention congratulations to Optic Nation for placing 3rd. Now moving on to 2nd place, which was actually Optic Gaming. You know, Optic Gaming played very well in their entire pool. Played VWS, 3-0 them. Played Envy, like I mentioned earlier, where they would 3-2 them. Went on to Vitality Storm. They went on a tear. They 3-1 Vitality Storm. Played against Optic Nation, their brother team, and ended up 3-0ing them. And after beating Optic Nation, that kind of solidified their spot into the grand finals, where they would place and play against FaZe. So a lot of people didn't know this is actually going to be a best of 7. 7. I had no idea it was either, to be honest with you, but it's actually going to be a best of 7 for the grand finals, which I personally love, by the way. I love having a best of 7 in the grand finals. It would be Solar Hardpoint, Biolab S&D, Comeback Uplink, Retreat Hardpoint, Recovery S&D, Detroit Uplink, and Riot Search and Destroy to close it out. Fortunately, it did come down to the final game. I'll kind of talk about the scores. Solar Hardpoint went 207 to 143 to Opti Gaming. Came out very, very strong in that first Hardpoint against FaZe. Moved on to Biolab S&D, where Optic would 6-0 them. At this point in the entire tournament, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a bloodbath. FaZe is about to get 4-0'd easily. And then just like that, and Comeback Uplink, FaZe powers back. A lot of really clutch plays out of Enable. They went to Elicitum with FaZe at one point, and Clayster was just leading his team. You know, that's his job. He's the leader of that squad, and you know, definitely did it. They would win that Comeback Uplink 12-4. Moved on to Retreat Hardpoint, where this is obviously Opti Gaming's bread and butter. They would win that one 201 to 186. Moved on to Recovery Search and Destroy 6-4 to FaZe. That was definitely one of the most closest games of the entire tournament, at least the Search and Destroy. It was so intense. It didn't go down to round 11, but still very, very, very close. Obviously, if Opti Gaming would have won that, they would have won the entire tournament. So after the Retreat Hardpoint, OG just needed to win one more. But what would FaZe do? They would power back and win 3 games straight. After the recovery game, they would go on to Detroit Uplink, which would be 13-8 in favor of FaZe. That was just all around FaZe the entire game. You know, they had really, really good defensive pushes and just limited Opti Gaming a lot, I guess you could say. But came down to Game 7. I was super excited. You know, Twitter was absolutely exploding. You know, I know this viewership wasn't the best for this tournament, but at the very end, I think we hit around 97 or 98,000 viewers, which is really good. But this definitely was probably the best series that I've seen in Advanced Warfare, in my opinion. I know we've had a lot of really good series throughout the entire game, but to me, you know, the Gfinity Summer Masters best of 7 grand final, Opti Gaming vs FaZe, to me was definitely my top game so far, my favorite series so far in Advanced Warfare. But Riot Search and Destroy came down to it. They played 2 rounds, and I believe someone got kicked out of the game. I think it was like an issue with an Xbox One. After that, FaZe would just go on a tear, winning 4 straight rounds and ultimately winning the Summer Masters 6-2 on Map 7, Riot Search and Destroy. So FaZe wins 2 events in a row. This is the first time they've actually won 2 events in a row, and ultimately FaZe is looking like a top team right now. But Opti Gaming and FaZe, the 2 titans in the Call of Duty scene. Now, personally, I really like having this. I really do. I like having 2 major teams that everyone looks at, and and everyone coming to this tournament had either FaZe or Opti Gaming winning it. I think that was just kind of like a known thing. I saw a couple of people have Elevate, but still, these 2 teams are leagues higher than any other team. And honestly, had there been a couple other plays, Opti Gaming could have won this tournament the same way that FaZe did. It just came down to small little plays, you know, like little flanks from Zuma, or little, you know, or big moments, I guess you could say, from Attach or Clay going off, getting a 1 versus 2. Little plays that made the series so entertaining, and now we have 2 major teams in the entire game to look at and say, these are the guys to beat. These are the 2 teams that are constantly going to be in the grand finals. And I cannot tell you guys how stoked I am, because while I was happy that Opti Gaming was winning tournaments, you know, they won 4 tournaments in a row, I'm glad that there's someone there also. I'm glad that there's someone there too. And for people to say, you know, is Opti Gaming going to make a roster change? In my opinion, it would be stupid to. I definitely don't think they will be. If either of these teams make a roster change, I will probably flip, and I will be making videos yelling and just crying into my pillow. But still, this was such a great series, such a great overall event, and honestly, FaZe and Opti Gaming, like I mentioned, 2 of the top teams in this game without a doubt. So it's like you're always worried about FaZe because they can get you from just about every single angle. You can't really counteract them in a game like Search and Destroy most of the time. Now, like I said, Opti Gaming ended up 6-0ing them, which looked insane. But, you know, like I said, very, very good moments out of both teams. FaZe just ended up coming, you know, big in these last 2 events, obviously at Dallas and also at, you know, the Gfinity Masters. But I'm going to go and give you guys the top 5 KDs, and at this, I will go and end the video. So, top 5 KDs for this event were actually replays at first with a 1.32 KD. Replays absolutely went off. He was a master the entire event. So, major props to replays for getting that first KD. Octane, a major slayer, one of my favorite players to watch in the entire game for Envious, 1.29 KD. Slasher also played for Elevate this event with a 1.25. Watson with a 1.23 from Vitality, and Mochilla with a 1.22 KD from Optic Nation. Mochilla, one of the best Battle and Slayers that we have in the entire game. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments your guys' feelings about these 2 teams. You know, what are you guys' thoughts heading into the next events that we have? I know we have DC coming up, we have the World Finals coming up soon as well, and we also have MES and stuff like that. So, and ultimately, thank you to Gfinity for putting it on, and you guys had a great tournament if any of you guys watched this. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.